Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. It's Connor here, and we are back with a new edition of the Rumour Mill / whatever the hell it is. It's a preview for Forest as well. So get your thoughts in the comment section below as well on the game, what you're expecting from Leeds United, the lineups, all that good stuff that we love talking about pre-match. We're going to be speaking about Max Verba leaving Leeds United. We're going to be speaking about Rasmus Kristensen's comments, and we're also going to touch on the value that Leeds have managed, it looks like, to have got for Darlow from Newcastle United, obviously formerly of Hull City last season on loan. So, yeah, guys, get your comments in the section below. Let us know exactly. This is almost like a pre-match thing as well. What you'd like to see for the Forest game. Are you wanting to see Nonto in there? You want to see Cine in there? I'd like to see, personally, Rutter out wide. That'd be quite good to see. Dan James, are you looking forward to seeing him at some point? Do you think he's got a point to prove this season? Cody Drame, is he going to retain that right back place, or is it going to become a little bit competitive between him and Luke Ayling? Because if another manager sees Luke Ayling as ahead of Cody Drame, then where is the right back's future? Maybe that could sort of prolong into the transfer window. So I'm going to get into a few of your comments straight off the back. Evening, Connor. And everyone says, JC, hi, Jay. Lewis in the building. Hi, Lou. A up, Alison. Hi from Norway. Love your channel. Thank you so much, Espen. Thank you so much. Rob says, half an hour late if you brought a note. Yeah, apologies, guys, for that one. Basically, I'd finished work, scheduled the stream, and then completely forgot that I was absolutely starving. So, needed some food. So, yeah, good evening, Connor. How are you, Ethan? Hope you're good. Sam, as positive as always. Good evening, Connor. How are you, Paul? Hope you're all good. All late, aren't we? Yeah, there we go. So, let's get into the chat. How are you, Craig? Just seeing you there, mate. Forest, what we're looking forward to seeing. I think, as I've mentioned to you guys before, I think it's going to be an interesting how he makes. I think this is going to be very, very close to what we're going to see against Cardiff. Obviously, Ethan Ampadu you'd expect to feature. We know Adams and Harrison are not going to feature. Sinisterra was in the training video that they released today, as was Nonso and Rutter. I'd like to see, if I'm being honest with you, Rutter playing off one of the wings, and as to actually see him in a proper position that he made sort of his own, if you will, in Hoffenheim. I don't want to see him playing up front, and this is where the problems are with Leeds United when it comes to sufficient depth, quality and depth up front. They don't have it. It's Patrick Bamford, who is nowhere near good enough, and that's it. So what Leeds do there in terms of maybe a false nine, or maybe we incorporate Sinisterra as like a deep line forward, who knows, to work around the Patrick Bamford problem. But let's be honest, going into the season, I think we will all sort of hark a little bit of caution to the fact that Leeds don't score enough goals. And towards the back end of last season, we really struggled in front of goal in terms of just, finishing our chances, and that's been an issue with Leeds all the way back to the Bielsa days. So you're hoping that's going to be sorted with a few additions when it comes to the strikers. So I'm going to be interested to see if Bamford does start. If he doesn't start, how we're going to manipulate that situation. And if he does start, is he going to get a couple of chances and actually put them away and actually maybe show us that he can be slightly ruthless, which we know he can't. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. Rutter as a wing option, definitely. A lot of chat today. Potentially, I've seen on Twitter and a few news sites of maybe Matteo Joseph going out on loan. I can say for a fact there's been a ridiculous amount of interest for him on loan. So I don't know whether or not that's going to happen. The club looking to keep hold of Joe Gelhardt and maybe incorporate him into that starting 11 as well, maybe in that Farke number 10 role as we've spoken about before. Terry says Bamford's last chance saloon, sorry. We need a 10 cam. I'd agree with that, Bubba, 100%. Damar says, need pro, and looks like it's just us in for him now. 15 million for a proven striker is nothing. Who do you think would be better? Ross Stewart, who suits our system more, or Perot for straight-up goals? Seems like Bamford versus Rodrigo situation. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt in that Ross Stewart is a top player. He's got a lot to his game, Ross Stewart, as well. If you're comparing Ross Stewart and Bamford, Ross Stewart's the much better player. And in terms of profiles, presumably that's why you brought Ross Stewart up, because hold-up play, aerial ability, physicality. But I think Bamford has none of those really at the minute. I mean, hold-up play, I always hear that I get banded around for Patrick Bamford, and I was even banding it around for a little bit as well. But his hold-up plays average, below average. The ball just bounces off him half the time. So yeah, Ross Stewart is elite at holding the ball up. Very athletic. A very good striker of the ball as well, and his goals don't lie. Ross Stewart would be a very, very good addition for anyone in this division. Perot's a much different player, but yeah, there is a very, very fine line between Ross Stewart and Yoel Perot. Perot has obviously proven it in the Championship. Ross Stewart has been in League One with Sunderland, but by God, did he look good for a little bit of it last season. I know he got injured, but sort of around about January when they signed Gelhardt, that would have been interesting to see Stewart and Gelhardt together. I think Gelhardt would have profited from that, and that was the plan. But Stewart, I think, is a very good player at this level. I'd be very, very excited if Leeds would be able to acquire someone like Ross Stewart. But Yoel Perot, yeah, you're not going to say no to someone who's scored 41 goals in 79 appearances in the Championship, are you? And Leeds simply need additions up top. Good that we've got the Darlow situation done. I don't know what's going to go on at the back there in terms of in net. Is it going to be Meslier starting, Darlow starting? I can't imagine he's come to Leeds if he's not going to start, and presumably he had other options as well to maybe go out on loan. But yeah, and then obviously we need the defence sorting, the midfield needs sorting, and a lot. There's an argument that the spine of the team still needs sorting. So yeah, a lot to sort out for me still at Leeds. John Duran from Villa, if they're keeping Archer, yeah, obviously they confirmed the other day, didn't they, that they're going to be keeping Cameron Archer, which is slightly annoying. The Match On podcast, Con, do you think Darlow, yeah, we'll get on to Darlow in just a little bit, mate, but that is, I'll tell you what, I mean, I've had some pessimistic takes, but that's a pessimistic take, my friend. I'll leave that on screen for everybody to digest. But yeah, maybe, potentially you're right. Are you off to the Cardiff game, Connor? I should be going, mate, yeah, which is very, very exciting. At long last, I've actually been able to get a ticket. Isn't there a limit on how many loans that can go out, though? There is, and that's why I wouldn't have mind seeing Pervader or Greenwood or Gelhardt even, whoever, to go out on loan, so we've reached that capacity, and then, there wouldn't have been the ability to send Verba out. But to be honest, we'll get on to Verba, but Verba's words, Verba's actions, I should say, and his words, obviously, before leaving Leeds United and being the poster boy and saying, he wants to help Leeds through the Championship or whatever. I understand there's not sentiment there, but I just thought that was a bit raw and a bit rogue of him, to be honest with you. Just don't set your stall out if you're just going to leave. No point. Melee has to be sold, surely. Yeah. He does. The problem is his stock's low now. For me, Illan Melee doesn't get any more than 8 million right now. Why? Who's paying more than 8 million for Illan Melee, and why? What are we paying for? Because we hype him up as Leeds fans, because he's a good goalkeeper, but he has several deficiencies in his game, which you can name on one hand, so maybe two hands. He's not good enough for a lot of Premier League teams, and I'm even talking about the teams that came up. He's not good enough. So as of right now, his development's not at that stage where you can turn around and think, okay, but if Leeds fans are alright with selling him for 8 million, which I'm not saying I'm not, by the way, then that's fine. You've still made profit on him. You'd have ideally liked to make more profit on Illan Melee, but his dip in form of the last 18 months is, clubs aren't stupid. They're not going to be paying. I'm still seeing banded around 15, 20, 25 million for Illan Melee. What are we smoking? Based on what? Potential. It's not, the amount of caps he's had. It doesn't matter. You look at his form over the last however many months. It's not been good enough. Simple goalkeeping basics he struggled with. So, no, you can't. Those margins in the Premier League can send a club down. They really can. And he was at fault for a lot of errors last season. I know he had a bad defence in front of him. Probably had a bad goalkeeping staff as well, as we've seen with Marcus Abad when he's been throwing tennis balls at West Bromwich Albion to aid the goalkeepers' reflexes, the goalkeepers' reflexes. But ultimately, Illan's, in my opinion, isn't good enough for top Premier League, as in like middle table top Premier League. I've not seen this yet, mate. Has he? Elias Chair, I've not seen that yet. That's disappointing. Verba loan apparently has a 500k loan fee, so technically if the Darlow fee is 400k, he's a free signing. Yeah, let's get on to Carl Darlow. So we'll speak about Rasmus and Verba in a little bit in the Forest game. But yeah, I think it's a good bit of business, everyone. Listen, is he who I would have gone for? I'm not head of recruitment whatsoever. I'm not. Is he the goalkeeper that I'd have gone, yes, what a signing, unbelievable? No. And when I say unbelievable, I mean relative to the Championship. He's not, was at Hull last year, did all right at Hull, very all right. And I put that out on a tweet, just he's all right. Yeah, he's all right. He's all right, decent experience. Very Robles-ish for me when you look at maybe the profile of the signing. Can he play out from the back? That's something that I look at Darlow and think, I wonder if he can do that. He's not really been forced to do that in his career. If you look at the clubs that he's been at and the managers he's played under. Yeah. And, maybe you look at someone like Tim Krul, who Farke moulded at Norwich, playing out from the back, and that's a real positive. And he's going to encourage Darlow to do that. But Darlow's obviously, 32 years of age. How much can you sort of demand of him in terms of being almost like a bit of a sweeper keeper in the Championship, which is presumably what Farke's going to need, and somebody who can play out from the back. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think there was definitely goalkeepers out there to get, but for 400 grand, I mean, that's an unbelievable. As Jay's quite rightly said, if you're selling Verba, getting 500k for him, that's how business is done. Ethan Ampadu for 7 million quid, that's how business is done. If people sleep on that signing, Ethan Ampadu for 7 million quid is unbelievable business. So that and Darlow, I don't think it reeks of us being skint. I think the 49ers are doing a lot on the infrastructure and the facilities behind the scenes. I think they're trying to work within the parameters that are going to be there at Leeds, the boundaries. But I also think when you get a deal like that and you've got a cash-hungry club in Newcastle, who the only reason they're really letting Darlow go is because they've just got too many keepers. I think they are quite fond of him up there. For them to let him go in this day and age to Leeds United for 400k, and that's really good bit of business for Leeds. And you think about how much he'd have gone for if we'd have had like Victor. I mean, Victor Orta wouldn't have gone for him. We'd have been getting a Sevilla third keeper right now, but we'd have then overpaid for that Sevilla goalkeeper and had him on the top wage at the club because Victor Orta was best mates with him. So the change in approach, which is what I'm hoping for. It might not be behind the scenes. It might have been an obvious bargain, but there was people speaking about 4, 5, 6 million, and now we've got him for 400k. I think that's a good bit of business. Craig, my point is here, how did we get Darlow so cheap when it was out there that Bournemouth were going to pay 5 or 6 million? Who said that? Who is saying these things? Is it anyone credible? There's been a lot of, for some reason, I think it's been the ability now to pay for a tick. I think, if you've got a blue tick on Twitter now, I had one for a little bit, but that was only through work. There's no way I'd be paying for it. But the ability now to pay for, and people are open to do whatever they want, of course they are, but pay for a Twitter blue tick has now meant that there seems to be all of these like in the know ITK Leeds journalist accounts everywhere, and I don't know. Like, these are just Twitter users, regular Twitter users, and there's exclusives here, there's breaking news here, there's this, that, and the other here, and the amount you're looking at it and thinking, that's crazy. The Darlow thing I cross-referenced with the #1 Newcastle United journo up there, who thank God works for my company, and he said it was a load of rubbish. That's behind closed doors. 6 million. I don't know if it was ever going to be 6. I don't know where these are coming from, but it seems like people are just throwing stuff and seeing if it sticks. So what I'd do is I'd be cautious of some of the links that you're seeing online. When I'm on here, guys, and I'm giving you very irregular things that I get told. Very irregular. I'm not ITK at all. If I get told anything, I'll come on here. Won't say who it is, but I'll say, look, I've heard this bit. I won't and I get told nothing. But it's a lot of it is absolute bollocks. So take it with a pinch of salt. Trust me, because a lot of it it's not true, mate. Unless you see the main accounts, who we all know who they are, tweeting about it, don't take it all with a pinch of salt. That's what I would say. Connor thoughts on us being interested in Holgate on loan. Yeah, Danny wouldn't mind that. He's obviously, I believe he's a Barnsley lad, isn't he? Mason Holgate. I don't think that'd be a bad sign or very aggressive. I've not seen anything to do with that, mate. I really haven't. Is that a legitimate link? have we seen that on some sort of like, I know this is the rumour mill, of course, and it can be any site, but it'd be interesting to see how reliable that is actually. But Mason Holgate wouldn't be a bad shout, I don't think. Slightly rash. Any game that I see him play, he's very, very rash and looks like a bit of a liability. We don't need any more of those. But yes, Mason Holgate, I don't think technically is a bad player. Better Darlow than risk than getting stuck with Danny or Klaassen. Ampadu's underrated also. Those who've left are all underperformers. Yeah. I mean, we're going to get onto these people again. Okay, so yeah, Rob, exactly, mate, exactly. Just chill out with some of these. It's like like with a lot of these, how many have actually come true? If it's like direct, if they've got links, fair enough. If they know people, fair enough. Fair play to them. But I think what the ability now to pay for a Twitter tick has opened the world, and I think some people still think that a tick is for like really credible journalists. It's not now. You could go and pay $9.99 a month for a tick, So yeah, it's opened up a world of ITKs. Anyway, let's get on with it. Let's get on to the real news. It looks like, according to Florian Pettenberg, Verba is going to be joining Borussia Mönchengladbach. They reckon the initial Leeds are going to get 500k from it. It is a loan for a year with an option to buy at the end. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be welcomed back with open arms. I think we all know that, whatever the situation is. Obviously, it depends, doesn't it, on the environment and where Leeds United are, but I don't think he's going to be welcomed with open arms. Verba is one where, as I say, I don't rate him as highly as a lot of people do, I'll be honest with you, but when you're looking at this Leeds United defence, which was one of the worst defences the Premier League has ever seen, he was probably one of the shining lights out of it, So this defence will struggle still this year because the calibre of the defenders aren't great. So we need to go out there and invest in quality and depth. That's what I've been saying before. And when you hear Mason Holgate links and Reece Oxford links and Nat Phillips links, may not be the greatest, but you're bolstering that defence at least and offering competition, and that does wonders for mentality. So yeah, this defence has been absolutely horrific for years now, and it needs improving drastically, even in the Championship. I think people seem to forget that there are good attackers in the Championship. That there actually are. Cameron Archer, Gyökeres, Hamer. Attacking options, offensive options are still in the Championship. It's not just a completely shite league where there's no good players. There are a lot of good players in this division who can expose poor back lines. So that needs investing in. Verba leaving almost gives Leeds an opportunity to be able to go out there now, and maybe they weren't going to do it prior, but now there is an actual void in the back line in terms of a leader, which a lot of people called him, and probably one of, if not the best defender at the club, according to many. Football being subjective, but he was one of the better ones. So it gives opportunity now for Leeds to go out there and actually replace a profile at the back. I think there are once again options out there, but Verba going there, yeah, it shows that his quality is still admired by Bundesliga clubs. A good Bundesliga club, Daniel Farke's ex-club, obviously. But it's one of those where I think it did irk me a little bit, the Verba one. Other players that I honestly couldn't care less. Aronson, you guys know, I was never bothered about. Robin Koch, I liked Robin at the start. I thought him and Strout maybe under Bielsa could have been something, but maybe I was just still living in the Ben White days of expecting a defender to come through like him. Kristensen, we'll get onto in a bit, but Verba I wasn't massively bothered by. So he's sort of him being on the side of the stadium, him being sort of the main guy at the media day, paraphrasing him essentially saying that he'd give it a go with Leeds in the Championship. I was a little bit like, okay, that's nice. It's almost like we're looking at these profiles, Adams, Verba in the squad, and thinking, okay, we can keep hold of these for a year, and then they can do whatever they want next year if we're still in the Championship, whatever. But for him to sort of like have all these quotes down about how he wants to be in the Championship and get Leeds back up, and then for him to just go, I was a little bit like, don't get me wrong, there's no sentiment in football, but Jesus, that's rough. That is rough. You didn't really hear anything like that from Aronson, from Robin Koch, from Kristensen even, players like that, Llorente. You didn't hear players say that, but Verba sort of went on that party line. I thought, it's a bit rogue, that. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing from him, I thought. Paul Gray says 157 goals conceded in 2 seasons. Sickening stat, that. Really need to go back to basics and build from the back. It's the most important position, Paul. You guys know that I say the most important position about pretty much every position. But I think I've always said on here, you build from the back. The midfield, I think you lose the midfield battle. In my opinion, you lose the game. But building from the back's huge. And I've said multiple times on here, we've built from the front for 2 or 3 years, and it's a dense way of doing things. There's one more void in the back line, Connor. Cooper and Ayling, the best defence in the league. Yeah. Connor, when we got relegated, I thought this season would give me hope, but this squad at the moment does not look good. Yeah, I agree, Dave. I think I've said this, mate. We just need fresh faces. Like, there needs to be, because I think we're all, well, some people who are looking at Nonto and Sinisterra and Adams and all these players and thinking, we're going to absolutely romp the championship. I just sometimes think it's like short memories. It's like, do you remember what the championship was about? When they had like good caliber teams down there. I'm not saying the whole division's unbelievable. I'm not. But there are good caliber teams down there. I'm not saying Leeds aren't going to be one of those good caliber teams, but there needs to be personalities in this Leeds squad, attitudes that can deal with the pressure of not only being a Leeds United player, because we are the biggest club in that division by a country mile, but it's dealing with the opposition fans and the opposition grounds where they sell out everywhere and hate Leeds everywhere. And it's dealing with a potential 50-game season where, you have to deal with being a Leeds United player and dealing with the pressure and dealing with the expectation. There's so many things that are associated with being a Leeds United player where it's different. I don't care what anybody says. They might have been in the Premier League longer and had more success, yada, yada, yada. But when you look at globally and you look at the reputation and you look at the expectation, Leeds are bigger than Southampton and Leicester. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Anybody will tell you that. So I think coming to Leeds, the expectation is massive. And we need certain players to uphold those standards. And I think, you've seen with a lot of the players from last year, they've not been able to do that. They've not been able to cope with the pressure. The quality, might not have been there. But digging deep in certain moments, I didn't think was there from 95% of the squad. And that's not just going to change. I know the quality of the Championship is definitely lower than the Premier League, but it's a mentality thing. And mentality in football is huge. And you can't have a team who've lost all the time for the past 2 years consistently. We've won 16 games in 2 and a bit years. Go into another division and just win every single game. I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think you need fresh faces to rejuvenate that squad. Every team does, But I think there's still a large framework of what Daniel Farke would want that isn't in this Leeds side. The obvious one being a central attacking midfielder, which is essentially, a lot would argue, the reason that Norwich got promoted those 2 times and was so dominant. Emi Buendia was literally insane in the Championship. He's got a striker in Timu Pukki who's scoring a ridiculous amount of goals. So we're comparing Leeds to Norwich and say, Daniel Farke's done this with Norwich. The realism is we don't have a lot of the profiles that Daniel Farke had at Norwich. And that's because he had longer with that Norwich side, of course. He was able to build the profiles with the director of football in Stuart Webber. But I just think it's going to be very, very different at Leeds. So more additions is definitely needed. Definitely needed. So what? That doesn't mean they're a bigger club. Doesn't mean they're a bigger club. And you've also said fans, I think you've just said there, Sam, fans don't mean it. Of course they do. That's why everybody talks about Newcastle being a big club, because Newcastle haven't won anything in the best part of 60 years. But fan base and attendances do mean something if you're a big club. Of course they do. Globalization, being able to go on tour to certain countries and being able to sell out. That's the hallmarks of being a big club. Over 1,000 in here, guys. Smash a like. Yeah, make sure you do, everybody. Please hit the like. Championship is going to be tough next season. But yeah, let's have a little bit of a conversation about Rasmus Kristensen. Now, I put a TikTok out about this, and it was It was quite well received. If you don't follow us on TikTok, you can do. But I'm just going to read exactly what Rasmus said, and I want to give everybody in the comment section below, if you've not seen what Rasmus Kristensen said, he was talking, I think, to a local site out in Rome. And, you know, I put a little bit of a TikTok out about it, and I think it's divided opinions a little bit. So he said, Leeds fans are very warm and passionate, but Roma's fan base is on a different level. Here, the passion is different. So far, I have only collected positive experiences. Even just walking around the city, I have found nice and kind people. It will be up to us to reciprocate this through the matches. And I can't remember what he said at the end because my big fat head's in the way when I'm talking about it. But to be essentially good towards the end of the season and pay the Roma fans back. Listen, I think a lot of people on TikTok thought I was vexed by it. It was literally just a 40-second just summarization of Rasmus's comments. I just don't think you need to comment, you know. And when you're comparing fan bases like he has done, he's been here for a year. You don't have the credentials, big man, to be speaking about the fan base and comparing them to Roma. Like, who's to say our fan base aren't on a different level to Roma? You know, like what are you comparing that to? I just think it was like, you know, I don't understand why he's coming out and commenting on the Leeds fan base. Like, Roma's a different level. Maybe it's on a different level, mate, because the Leeds fans have been battered for the best part of two and a bit years with players like yourself who literally haven't given it all, in my opinion, for the shirt, and they bottled it in a lot of occasions. So the Leeds fans, unfortunately, aren't going to be enamoured with you and your performances in comparison to a Roma side who have been in Europe for the best part of 3 or 4 years, and right now their expectations are very different to Leeds United. But you know, you're comparing the fan bases. I was saying on the TikTok earlier on, this is a guy who came to Leeds and was going on about the fan base in Scandinavia and how massive we are, and how his neighbour's a Leeds fan, his dad's a Leeds fan, I think he said as well, and all this sort of stuff, and how, you know, it's a dream come true and all this sort of stuff. And I know it's poppycock in football, but I just think you don't need to comment. Again, you don't need to comment on it. You are still a Leeds United player. You're out there on loan. Roma are not going to sign you. You're not. I don't know what on earth is going on with their scouting system, getting Llorente and Rasmus Kristensen, Tweedledum and Tweedledee. They're nowhere near good enough. But it might work out for them in Serie A. Who knows? But I just think the comments are just I just think it's misled, and maybe that's his agent. Maybe that's him being set up by, you know, Roma TV, been asked to compare Leeds and Rome, but, you know, in terms of cities, and then Leeds and Roma in terms of clubs. But I just think it's a little bit misguided. I'm interested to hear what you guys think, and yeah, I just think it's a bit daft, to be honest. Wonder how warm and positive the Roma fans will be when they realise it turns like a tugboat. I think I said something similar, mate. I think I said something similar like, let's see what the Roma Ultras are doing when they're turning up at his... I mean, this would be horrible, by the way, but, you know, if they're turning up at the training ground and the battering them, but this is what they do. This is literally what they do with these Italian fans. They are nuts, but to say that the passion is on a different level, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, Steve, exactly. Been in Rome for a month. I mean, I guess he's saying there that there's a different vibe in Rome. I mean, there will be right now. We've just been relegated, mush. And you've been terrible for a year, and you've been criticised for a year because you've not been good. Let's wait until 6 months down the line. I know Rome's a lovely city. It's one of my favourite cities. But let's see how the fans are treating you after that point, mate. I think you got over it. I think you got it quite well, you know, in terms of getting a lot of crap. I don't think you did. Get over it. Who gives a shite what he says? A lot of people do, mate. It's trending on Leeds Twitter at the minute, so a lot of people do care what he says. Hence why we bring it onto the rumour mill. How's the yerba, mate? Yeah, good, mate. Good, thank you. Very good. It's replaced my coffee intake, so thank you, Marcelo Bielsa and Lionel Messi, two of the idols in my life who drink yerba mate. Yeah. And James, this is where I'm at, to be honest. This is where I'm at. Totally disrespectful to Leeds after giving Leeds a season like he did. I agree. Isaac says, do you think we are focusing too much on proving UK talent in the transfer market this season? Would it be easier, cheaper, and more effective to look abroad for a high degree? Isaac, I think there's a nice balance that you can do. And once again, you look back to this Norwich side that did really well. You look at Zimmerman, you look at Vrancic, Onel Hernandez, players like that who did really well under Daniel Farke. There's definitely a market there to get cheaper players, 100%. But what have we said for years? It's been, you do need tried and tested players for the Championship, in my opinion. You know, you do need players who have done really, really well at that level, and they've proven they've done it. And I think that dotted with a lot of like European talent and just general continental talent as well, when your scouts are out there doing the business, I think that's a nice little mix. But I think personally they're going to go a lot more domestic this season, and I don't mind that. You know, if it's not working, then you can address it in January, and you can maybe go out and get like a Timu Pukki or whatever. But I think for the Championship in particular, they're sort of golden nuggets, aren't they? But I think in the Championship in particular, it's all about getting your loan structure right. If you can go and get some top players on loan, which is where I'm hoping Leeds are going to target at some point, I think that gets you out of this division, and dotted round with some sort of like heads who've been in the division and can prove it and play in the division. You know, Hayden Hackney at Middlesbrough is someone who looks fantastic at the minute and has looked fantastic for Middlesbrough and could be a target for Leeds. Gustavo Hamer, you know, if you're looking at maybe like a Ross Stewart or something like that, Yoel Perot, all these players who, you know, have done it in the Championship and proven it in the Championship, and then you can dot the, you know, the lone players around those and the players that we've still got who have quality and talent. Do you think we'll sign Kamara? Yeah, probably. I think that 4 million would be a good bit of business for him. But then, once again, it's not addressing the problem. See what I mean? I'd suggest don't just see a player and think, ooh, a new player. Ooh, yeah, let's go and get him. Let's get really excited. And it's right to get definitely like Kamara. Kamara's a good player. I mean, we've been linked with him for years, haven't we? So we've done loads of rumour mill stuff on him before. I think I've done a player profile on him before on the Patreon, which you can sign up to, everybody, link in the description below. And I'll probably bring that back out again as well, the player profile on Kamara, if we do get closer to him. But I think it's the balance again in the midfield, and it's a little bit disjointed. So if you're bringing in Kamara, okay, it sort of sorts a midfield, but you don't want a flat midfield. You know, you don't want a flat midfield. If he's a central midfielder, I don't know if I'd categorise him as like an advanced, proper attacking 8. He's definitely not a 10. So he's probably more of a 6. We need to be addressed. It's good. It's a good bit. It's a decent bit of business, but there needs to be something else in there. Another couple of bodies in there for me. If you're getting a Glenn Kamara. Hey Gary, hope you're all right, mate. Of course, I'm Danish, Johnny. Ginderskoff, great name, mate. But I actually think the best he could. He showed some heart, which is a lot more than some of the local boys. Fair enough, pal. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. For someone who was as physically imposing as he was, to be getting pushed off the ball and going down quite easily when it came to tackles and been beaten so easily, and the ball robbed off him continuously, and yeah, not reading the play well. I don't know, just beating your chest and shouting every now and again. It's just not good enough for me. But, you know, I understand that. Hi, Shep. Right, okay. Guys, I'll tell you what, because Leeds are about to... Have we got the lineup yet? Have we got the lineup? We'd expect it to be announced soon, surely. No, have we not? We haven't got it yet. Oh, it'll be at 45, won't it? But yeah, a lot of people are saying Leeds, Sheffield United. Peter O'Rourke saying Leeds, Sheffield United and Southampton have all made inquiries for Mason Holgate. You know, that'd be a loan signing, so that wouldn't be a bad addition. But yeah, unfortunately, the lineups haven't been announced yet. So we'll react to that on Twitter. Guys, make sure you're following us on Twitter. Make sure you're following us on TikTok. If you have some bonus content, head over to the Patreon. Quick shout out to some of the new Patreon members who've come on along, I should say, this week. Shout out to Tracy, Ben, and Spene who've joined the Classy One Leaders. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I will see you tomorrow. Cheers.